Hello everybody, it's Michelle from the Stamp Doctor, and I am back to show you one more item from the tropical selection. This is the card, or one of them, that you can make with the tri-fold shutter card die, which is this weird thing. And then the layers, it has two different sets of layers. I'm using layers number 2 today. And this was kind of what inspired me to make, sorry I forgot to grab them, to make this card with the same dies that you would use when you're using the tri-fold shutter. So we just did this in the OOAK Make and Take, but it uses the similar layer sizes as this half tri-fold shutter. Now it also makes a full tri-fold shutter, and I will link the video for how to make a full one. It won't be all pretty, just the base, but I'll link that on a playlist here for this one. But this concept, these pieces, I wanted to use into another card. So you can see here the layers. I like to design stuff and buy stuff that you can do multiple different cards with or multiple projects with. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to slow way down today, and I'm going to show you the basics of how to make that base card. And I'm going to show you some of the tricks that I use when I'm doing the dies. So this is 5.5 tall by 12 inches long. I did not have black 12 by 12 cardstock, so this is actually poster board from the Dollar Tree because it's black core. Make do with what you have, right? So in order to figure out how to lay the die on here correctly, we're going to balance that up because we just want to see the zigzag to it. So what we have here is we've scored it every 4-inch measurement. So 12 inches, you're going to have it scored at 4 and again at 8. All right. And then this card folds up like this. So we want this paper oriented so it folds up like that as well. That's going to be this direction. This is our flat back. This is our pop-up portion where the tri-fold does its thing. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this, pinch these together, and I want you to turn it like that, okay? You're going to put some stencil tape on here. I think I have 3 rolls of stencil tape, and I saw an order come through for 1, so we're going to be down to 2 rolls, but I have more on order. But with the slowdown for the coronavirus, things aren't shipping very quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to want stencil tape on here, and this is fresh tape, so I just want to make sure that I have detackified it, which is my formal word for it. And then we're going to put it up in that fold, and I literally just do it like this. I stand this up, I'm pushing on the die that is a little bit taller, I'm making sure that the die doesn't stick out side to side, and then I'm going to press right in where I know that tape to be. Okay, that then holds it in place where I need it. Now we want to leave this flap underneath because we're going to cut them at the same time. So I'm using my Sizzix Big Shot Foldaway. Really love it. I am going to go ahead and put it in this way, making sure that the bottom of my die is on the plate. And we'll cover it with this mat. And I wanted to let you know I am in the works with the company to try to manufacture plates that don't warp. So stay tuned. Make sure you're on my mailing list, email list, follow me on Facebook, whatnot, because you'll want to make sure of that. Now I go ahead and I come backwards. First of all, because it returns it to my side of the table, which is easier than trying to sit up, lean up, and reach around the back. But also, we're cutting through 2 layers, so just to make sure that everything is cut, I do that. Now I accidentally had 3 of these clear plates out once, and I broke a vagabond because I laid the second plate here and threw a die on it, threw another plate on top, ran it in to start, and it busted my machine. Don't do that. So as a habit, I either turn my top plate this way, of course just keep 2 plates out as my boyfriend said and you wouldn't have that problem, or I layer it under here. That way this one is always available to put the next die down and go. Alright, so we gently peel this loose, and it was new tape, so I have to be a little bit more gentle than I normally would be. And incidentally, putting it in the sunlight or putting it with a heat tool or a lamp, heats up that sticky and that tape, and it'll come off easier than if it's cold. So that's just a trick. If I've had a really delicate piece of paper and it's stuck more than I thought it would, I'll just heat it a little bit so I can pop that tape loose. Now I'm going to put this back into the package. All my directions are on my packaging, so I do get a little disappointed when people don't know how to do them because they threw away the package. So I just put the tape upwards. Now it's sticking to the plastic. It's not going to ruin my instructions or my directions. And that's how I store my die, back in its bag. All right, so here we have now the trifold shutter, and it's going this way. And so we need to crease it here along these lines. And so we're gonna fold that backwards, okay? And you can take your bone folder and really give those a good crease. I don't have the table area for that. And then we need to repeat that and fold this backwards on the other side here. So we're just gonna bend it. And you can see the die does cut and score, and it does a really good job, especially if you go up and back. So this is not super heavy paper because it's from the Dollar Tree, and it's just, what is that stuff called again now? Poster board. But I do like it because it's heavy enough to do a little box out of, and it's a black core. So when you crease it, you're not going to get white crinkles showing. Okay, so that is now our half trifold shutter card base. Okay, I'm going to stick that over here. All right, and I went ahead and I pre-cut my side panel layers and my other layer, and I'll give you the dimension because this one you can't use the A2 dies for. But I went ahead and cut these, and I did put the tape sheet on the back of them, or excuse me, the tape runner, not tape sheet. And this is left over from mailing labels. So you can see this, the feed strip is still in here. I always keep these because they're natural release paper for all kinds of fun things. So these things already have tape on them, just from a tape runner. Thank you, Lori. Lori shared some tape runners with me. And I just wanted them already pre-taped so I could just assemble. Now I want to tell you about your layers. These are not the only bags of layers, but they're the ones I'm using, so I pulled them out. And you get all these different layers. There's trifold shutter layers number 1 and trifold shutter layers number 2. And how they differ is that when you put trifold shutter layers number 1 on the card, you are left with a 1/16 of an inch space, which is what this picture depicts. And this is what we used on the gatefold. And it left an 1/8 of an inch, or excuse me, a 1/16 of an inch away from the top and an 1/8 of an inch away on the sides. Okay, but had I used these layers, which leave an 1/8 of an inch away all the way around, I would have ended up with even narrower here. So I would have ended up with an 1/8 here, but then I would have ended up with an even 1/16 smaller there. And I know that's a lot of really crazy numbers, and it gets a little confusing when you're talking all those stupid digits. Basically, all you need to understand is what your eyes show you. Here you can see that on a trifold shutter card, I have a very little bit of green around the edge by using layers number 1. By using layers number 2, I have an 1/8 of an inch all the way around the edge of the card. Okay, now each one of the dies in here, there's 3 dies for each shaped section. Each one of those dies is going to be an 1/8 of an inch apart. So if I cut this piece, and this piece, and I stack them on top of each other, I'm going to end up with an 1/8 of an inch layering or matting. Okay, the same thing is true here. I'm going to end up with an 1/8 of an inch matting, but because these dies are larger than these dies, if I take one from here, and 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 back and forth, I would have 1/16 inch layering. So that's where it's kind of fun to have both sets, because you can make those little teeny tiny maps. Now I'm not going to use all 6 layers on one card all at the same time, but if you already have a pre-printed paper and it has like a really cool pattern that you want to capture, this gives you a lot of options for which size die you can place over the pattern to capture it, and then you have a layering option. So that's the intent behind them. Now, if you buy both sets of layers and you take them all out of their individual little bags and you have some from this set out and some from this set out, back and forth, odds are you're going to be playing sort the dies. I don't like to play that. So I'm going to recommend a Sharpie marker. Take one set, you decide. It can be your layers number 2 or your layers number 1, but whatever you do it in all of your layer sets. So for instance, if I have A2 layers number 2 and trifold shutter layers number 2 and circles number 2 and squares number 2, all number 2 dies, I'm going to turn over, and you can see I did it on number 1, but you're going to turn them over, and on the back just color some red marker in the same corner for each one of those. Then if you accidentally get the same size pieces from set 1 and set 2 together, you can flip them over. Oh, this one's red, it goes in number 2. Oh, this one's not red, it stays with number 1, and you can resort them. So that's just a little trick I use because sometimes we get excited, we get dies out from both sets, then we cause confusion. I can't even say it, I'm so confused. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I achieve some of my layers. Like for instance, on here, you can see that this pattern here carries down to this flower right here. And you can't really tell so much here, but see how the corner of this flower is here? These dots, the little tiny dots ended up there. I do that by cutting the pieces consecutively, and I'll show you what I have laid out. So I'll start with this one. So on this layer, which goes here, these are vertical, so the tall piece. So I have lined up my paper here, and you can cut exactly to the outside of the die because it's going to leave you the smallest bit of waste possible. There's about a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge of the die. And then what I did is I just took a pencil. I like lead pencils, nice little fine pencil-y edge, and I drew on this side of the paper and the top of the paper. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Let me start over. I actually drew on this side of the paper, and I should have an ink. Yep, there it is. There is my pencil line right there. So put down your first die, pencil line next to it, then move it over, lining up the edge with the pencil line next to that, and of course across your top of your die. Now I know to cut here, and I'm going to be able to get 2 of those die cut pieces out of this one little piece of paper. Okay, so then what I'm going to do, I have stencil tape on here. I try a lot of the time to make sure that the tape is stuck to the die, but it doesn't exceed to the inner portion. It exceeds to the outer. That's so my tape doesn't stick to my pattern paper and ruin it. So what I'm going to do, I may have to stick my big old head in the way. I'm going to tape this down to my mat. Okay, I'm going to lift up the tape or the die taped down, and I am going to slide this so that I'm lined up with the corner. Okay, and then I'm going to take my thumbnail and I'm just going to crease that down. Okay, now if you're afraid of it twisting or moving because it did lift up off the mat, my plate's bowed. Again, I want to make unbowable plates. But if you're afraid that it will, go ahead and put another piece of tape here and then tape it down to the plate there. We're still not going to ruin our paper, but it's going to help hold it in place. I hope that does make sense. So now we're going to go ahead and cut it. Now I'm going to go ahead and just go once through because I don't want it to miss a line on the way out because it's not taped at both ends. Okay, so now, and you can see how little waste you have there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to write on here that this is to the left and this is the pattern. Whoops, broke my lid. Okay, so my pattern was going up and this one is my left piece. Okay, then we're going to, I just take and I just pop that off with my finger. And let me line up my second piece here. And I did leave just a little leeway. You can see that this is just a little bigger because you give yourself just a little bit of room. Okay, let go of that. Whoops, hopefully you don't do that to it. And set that down. I really am loving this machine. I'll put a link to it on my Amazon. I definitely appreciate whenever you purchase on Amazon. If you use my link, I make a little tiny bit of money, and that's awesome. But I really am impressed with this. It's too hard to do videos with a Vagabond. It makes too much noise, and this has a tremendous amount of pressure. Let me just write on here, even though we know that the only other thing left is right, when you only have left and right and there's no middle, but I still know now that my pattern is going upwards. So, or did I flip it? Hold on, I might have flipped it. Oh, goody. Huh. Maybe the space. Now it's like a pattern. Whatever, however I wrote it, that's how I'm putting it on. I should concentrate on telling you all one thing at a time. Oh well, I digress. So, that is that piece. Then, the reason I kept these two little bags out is in the trifold shutter, the smallest die out of here is the same size as the largest die out of here, so you do get two dies that match in the set. And it's the only two. But anyway, so that's the two here. Okay. So I did the same thing. Here I have them taped together. I do have a little bit of tape in the middle. Just make sure it's de-tackied so you don't tear your paper. And I did the same thing. I taped them together. Then I laid them out. I pencil marked here. I moved them up. And I pencil marked up there. I pencil marked down the side. And I actually want to turn it and cut it this way, because you're better to cut your dies long rather than wide. It keeps their shape better. So, put that on. And I'm not taped really to the paper at all, so I'm really hoping that my plate doesn't move, my magnetic plate. And then let's turn this around, and I'm going to go ahead and flip the whole thing over so that I can write left, bottom, pattern up, right, bottom, pattern up. Okay. And then we will repeat without my hair. All right. And sometimes it's okay to have, you know, the tape overlap. You can actually do that and hold it in place, as long as you're confident that you have removed the tacky from the tape. Alright, and if I'm boring anyone, I apologize. I do like to explain more of my methods to my madness as much as I can. But you can fast forward if you just want to, no problem. And you know what, I did that backwards, didn't I? I bet you guys are shaking your head going, no, 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 no. Because I flipped it over, it's mirror image. So that means left top up, and this means right top up. So I can just hear all you guys. You're all just going, no! Okay, so interestingly enough, that would make kind of a really cute little window. If anybody wanted to get precise about their placement, you could make a little window, just leave a little bit more around the outside edge to cut out with. All right, so done. I believe that's all of the cutting. And these just pull out, maybe. There we go. There's really cool storage under here, but I don't have anything in here yet because I need to get some duplicates. If I don't have this with me and I have something else, I don't want to forget all my tools in here if I go somewhere with the Vagabond. And then the handle folds up nice and neat. So, really liking this machine. Of course, I really love Sizzix products anyway. They are kind of the originator of all that is die cutting as far as machines and everything go. So, okay, now you need a measurement on this piece because it's not 4 1/4 wide, it's 4 inches wide. So you're going to make this, let's see, it would be 4 by 5 3/4. That's how big this piece is here. So, excuse me, 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. 3 3/4, 5 3/4. So you're essentially just taking your 4 inches by 5 1/2 and you're taking 1/4 off from either side. All right, so now we can go ahead and just really quickly assemble, because I pre-taped. Again, with the tropical pattern, you're going to have your leaves aiming upwards. That's your upright for your patterns. And I kind of lay it down and then I kind of slide it. Like if I got the corner, whoop, see, it really slid. Lori, I'm adjusting to your tape. We'll have to see how much I absolutely love it. It's a little different tack than I'm used to, and you know when you have habits, they really get you. And so then you're gonna brayer it in place. Okay, then I have my strips. Now these I didn't cut consecutively. These are actually out of a strip of paper that went lengthwise. So this one is upright, and you can kind of choose which one might go better. You're not always going to get your pattern repeated depending on what size your paper pad is when you go to create a project. Like if you're using a 6x6, who knows what you might end up with. Okay, probably off camera, sorry. This celebrity camera business is new to me. Okay, that one's a little off. Basically, if anyone examines your projects too closely, just take them off your card list. Right? Okay. Close enough. I have learned a lot about not being OCD anymore on certain things. Okay. This is already sticky, so I might as well go ahead and sticky it here. Okay. And if you prep your materials and you are wanting to do stuff like for make cards to sell, I think this is a fabulous card to sell. I think that you would be able to sell this for probably $6 or $8 in some markets, because you're not going to find a hallmark like this. And honestly, it's really not that difficult to mass produce. Ask me about the other one. You saw how many kits I did. All right, so left up, right up. Those are going to go there. And I do put my tape around the perimeter. Yep, you can see me. Because putting an X in the middle of it, that makes the corners pop up. Corners are what get all the tension, and then they come off. They can be pulled off. So I don't put the tape in the middle. I put it around the edges. Right. Whoops, except for when you miss the edge. I am right at that stage of needing glasses for certain distances, but then they make my eyes all blurry for other distances. So it's kind of a not fun time for my eyeballs right now. All right, roll, roll. Need a new song. Roll, roll, roll your card, huh? Okay. I'm just going to put tape on these. Oh, and by the way, with the dies, these two pieces, you can stack your paper and you can cut more than one layer at a time with the dies. So this is 65-pound cardstock that I print on. And some of you, in your kits and in your paper when you ordered it, you might have accidentally gotten the really expensive $22 a ream Copic paper, because I was tired and I didn't realize that I grabbed the wrong ream of paper. So normally I'm not going to be doing it on that heavy a cardstock. Right top here, let me pick these up. But with the 65-pound, you can cut multiple layers at one time. I usually will do 2 to 3. Left top. Just because it saves time when you're trying to mass produce. Okay. Left bottom. And right bottom. with the arrow going up. Oh, there's where the little dots were all matching up. Okay. And steamroller it. Okay. That pops up, those fold over. And now we just add our flower element. Now I did pop this up. There's foam under there, but I forgot my foamy for this. So you just get a flat one today. Sorry, folks. All right, that is a half trifold shutter made with the trifold shutter die and trifold shutter layers number 2. So the combos are usually the best price on my website. And there is still currently until June 20th a 15% off coupon. Anything that you might not have ordered at the make and take time when you made the original purchase, you can still save and add to your section. By the way, if you go to my account, you can see your previous purchases and know which ones that you got. And you can also use the wish list feature for dies and stamps, etc. And you can also use the notify me if something is out of stock. It will send you an email as soon as I change the quantity available of the product. So thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you enjoy making some great cards no matter what products you're using. And I hope everyone stays happy, healthy, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.